Welcome everybody to the space. I have David with me, and do you want to go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, David?
Sure. I've been working on cryptocurrencies for a while now. Can't remember exactly. It's been a long time. I used to work on Grin, which was um, the original Mimblewimble project. And then back in like 2020 or something like that. I'm really bad at dates. 2020, I think. I started working with Litecoin on developing MWEB. And so I was the lead developer of that, and we ended up going live. Again, bad with dates, probably like a year and a half ago or something, maybe two, I don't know. And I've been kind of maintaining since then.
Nice. Yeah, I think everything since 2020 has been the same year on my end, so I don't think that's.
That same here, yeah. So
Um, but what was the original intention of MWeb? I learned about MWeb not too long ago, actually. I'd say in the last 6 months. And it's a weird name, Mimblewimble. So, what is
mhm.
Mimblewimble? Why is it called that? And what was the original intent of this extension?
Okay, so Mimblewimble is based off of some like tongue-tying spell in Harry Potter. The original protocol was kind of just randomly dropped with an onion link uh, in a plain text file that described this pretty cool protocol that kind of pieced together um, some existing privacy features in a new, like, scalable, slightly more private way. It's just kind of, it's not really like its own crazy invention. It's more like a piecing together of existing ones into a full system. It it did like, um, it combined confidential transactions with like Peterson commitments and range proofs just to kind of make a like prunable private cryptocurrency. And it was just dropped on the Bitcoin forum, like the Bitcoin Talk forum. Uh, Again, bad with the years, but like 2017 or something like that. And then, or maybe 2016. And then Grin kind of came from that. It was the first attempt to implement it. And they went with a very pure version that had like very simple, like the protocol itself is like the design itself is so simple that like um, uh, it's it's a little hard to explain. It's a very like simple, clever idea that all just kind of boils down to like this one big equation that as long as it sums and it's all valid, then everything everything is kosher. And there were some problems when they launched with the usability because it kind of required you to build transactions with the person you're sending to. So it's no longer like you give me an address and I'll just send you coins at any time. It's like we have to work together to build the transaction. Um, and that kind of caused some friction early on. So then like we made some changes with that for MWeb, but with our version. But like the pure Mimblewimble is just like this super simple protocol for like pruning old outputs. Like when you spend a coin, it's just kind of gets deleted from the blockchain, no longer needed to sync. And as a consequence of it, you also kind of gain some privacy because every transaction in a block is kind of just joined together in one big coin join without you no longer see like the links to this coin's being spent and sent to this coin. Like all the transactions are kind of stripped away. It's all just one big transaction per block. So that was kind of like that's what Mimblewimble is. Um, but then like what our intention with MWeb. So initially, before I had joined, Charlie was looking at confidential transactions, a way to get that included in Litecoin, which is included in MWeb. It's just like it's a part of it. It's confidential transactions. It's just like hiding the amounts of a transaction. Um, and so that was originally what he's trying to do. And um, around that time, the Bitcoin devs were kind of interested in Mimblewimble also, and they mentioned that MWeb could be added as an extension block. So like a fancy form of soft fork that allows you to change just about anything. Um, and so when they started looking down that route, they started to work with Beam some, which is another Mimblewimble implementation. But I reached out to them, to Charlie, and said, hey, I'd be willing to work on this. I had done a bunch on Grin and I had the background for it, so it was an obvious fit. And then we went from there. And then we've kind of made some changes since then. The original design, so it's not like a pure Mimblewimble anymore, but it's a very like practical version of it.
Got it. So is what you're saying then that Mimblewimble is not exclusive to Litecoin, the technology itself? It's just
Oh no, it did not start for Litecoin. It was originally just like that random proposal on Bitcoin Talk, and then there were some implementations of it that went live in like 2019.
Are there other projects that have adopted Mimblewimble, or is it a Litecoin exclusive kind of technology right now?
Yeah, so Grin and Beam are the two major ones. There have been others since then that have um, well, Tari for Monero is uh, like they're what's it called, the merge mind like side chain type thing called Tari. It's set to go live at some point. I don't know. They've been working on it for a very long time, but it's a pretty cool protocol. Yeah, there's definitely other implementations of it out there.
Nice. And so you talked a lot about privacy with the technology itself, and it sounds like a lot of that was your inspiration and the reason why you put it together.
Hmm.
Is privacy the main benefit to how this was integrated into Litecoin? Because I've also heard some scalability arguments as well. So is this a twofold thing? What's the main motivation out there?
Privacy was the main goal. Um, Mimblewimble just so happens to add some privacy in a scalable way. So like historically, when privacy coins would always like result in this massive chain bloat that was kind of hard to deal with on the scalability side. You either ended up having centralization or you had very small blocks or like very few transactions per block. There's all kinds of problems with it, high fees as a result of that. But Mimblewimble was kind of the first one that gave some privacy benefits, but like didn't come at a direct cost to scalability. In fact, like if you take the pure Mimblewimble, not necessarily the version we have, but the pure Mimblewimble protocol, like over time you end up reducing the size of the blockchain, at least. And now when I say size, I mean the transactions are still bigger. So when you keep a node running, it still has like the same requirements, actually higher. But when it comes to like syncing the blockchain from the start, uh, it's you don't need near as much data because a lot of it can be pruned away.
Got it. I definitely want to talk more about the privacy implications of MWEB and how that compares to
Mm-hmm.
other privacy tools eventually. But I just wanted to quickly say a lot of what you're saying reminds me a lot of the space I hosted with Luke Parker and full chain membership proofs for Monero in terms of being
Oh
able to
yeah,
develop
cool.
something that was scalable and private at the same time. Is that a,
Mm-hmm.
are there any kind of comparisons to draw between those two projects?
So full chain membership proofs would be more like, if I understand, I'm not up on all the latest proposals over there, but I assume that's more of like, um, they have, what we have there is already a kind of bloated privacy chain. They're great with privacy, it's Monero, but it's a very bloated chain. Like the transactions are huge, some of them, because they use gigantic ring signatures for all inputs, and it can get really unscalable quickly. Uh, but if I understand correctly, with the membership proofs, when you go, you don't like chains no longer or nodes no longer have to keep all the data around and keep a UTXO set in memory. They can instead, like the person spending the coin, can provide a proof that it is part of the UTXO set. Um, and so it's kind of like adding scalability to an already private but bloated chain. So yeah, this is kind of, Mimblewimble is like a combination of both. It's adding privacy and scalability, in a scalable way.
Nice.
And then, yeah, membership proofs is like trying to add scalability to something that's already private. Yep.
Nice. And again, I do want to touch on the privacy implications, but I still have a couple more questions. You keep referring to the version that you all created. How is the version you created different from perhaps the original vision, and why did you have to make those decisions to deviate?
So the original protocol is just it's basically you have each output is nothing more than a Peterson commitment, which is just a elliptic curve point basically, and then a bulletproof that it's a range proof. It just prevents inflation. It's some big zero knowledge proof that um, that no coins, like there's no negative balance in the output that would end up like fudging the total sum to make it still balance. It's just a way of ensuring that there's no coins created out of thin air. So that's like what an output was. And then there was just like a small kernel, it was called. It was like a signature and a couple other little pieces of data that would be included along with those, just to kind of uh, just to like, that's all there was to a transaction. So then like when you spent a coin, the entire output was just pruned. It was thrown away. There's nothing kept. And so all you end up with then is just this like 80 to 100 byte kernel, it's called, um, that has to be kept. That'll have to be kept around forever. So it's like this very simple little protocol, very small, like bits of data that need kept. And then the outputs are super simple. They're basically nothing more than a curve point and some zero knowledge proof along with it. Um, now, what the problem, like I mentioned earlier, was in order to make these transactions, you have to work with the person you're sending them to, so that together the two of you build a new transaction. Um, and that caused a lot of friction on Grin. Beam had some clever solutions for getting around it, but it still had some usability drawbacks. When it came to Litecoin, we knew, like I had seen what happened on Grin. I had helped support wallets on Grin that led to lots and lots of customer support issues. Like everybody struggled. There were always problems. So I knew if this went to an even larger audience, to Litecoin, that we'd have all kinds of issues transacting. So, from very beginning, I was looking for ways that we could include Mimblewimble, get all of its benefits, but do it so that it supported um, non-interactive transactions, sending to just an address with no input from the receiver at that time. And so that's basically the big difference between Mimblewimble and Mimblewimble extension blocks, is we did find a way, and we had to add some more data to the outputs and add some more data to the kernel. There's some extra signatures and stuff, but it's like a modified form of the protocol that adds some additional proofs on top that can that allows it to be sent, from one user to another without any interaction from the receiving party.
Nice. So, how have you been perceiving, I guess, overall adoption of the technology? What's that looking like?
So I mostly am focused on the security. I'm very conservative, move slowly, because I'm old, but also because I've seen like so many chains break. I've seen things go bad. So my big like focus has not been adoption per se. It's been more about making sure everything was secure, that's out there, and that the tools were available for adoption for other um, wallets. And we're finally starting to see now, recently in the past year, a lot of third-party wallets and other things starting to adopt the technology. So we're starting to see usability pick up quite a bit. But for a while, it was more just out there for Litecoin Core for people to test, but not a lot of activity. But hopefully that changes very soon.
I know we definitely want it to change as well, and we'll touch
Mhm.
on that later as well. To touch on privacy, because I know that's a big selling point for us and a lot of people who listen and care about, I guess, and use Cake Wallet and any other privacy tools out there. I see like Vlad and Tatsudo in the group right now, and I know they're big privacy people too. So there's quite a few privacy projects out there right now. So how does MWEB kind of stack up against them? Where do you feel it's strong? Where do you feel it has shortcomings? What are the kind of privacy protections that you can guarantee people and that you cannot guarantee people with it?
So it's like it's not a full-blown privacy coin. It's privacy light as far as how does it stack up against Monero or Zcash. It doesn't. They're far better, uh, far better privacy than what we've got, at least at the current level of usage and our current form. Uh, they're far better off. But what it does do is it takes a chain that already has a significant user base. It's very, it's a very mature ecosystem, lots and lots of users, uh, lots of services support it. And what it does is it offers them, the users of that, a way to gain some privacy. And the privacy is very pragmatic in that it's like the biggest gain is hidden amounts. Like when you go to transact, they say you're buying your coffee or whatever, Starbucks, the obvious example that everyone uses, we don't want the barista to know what our balance is. We don't want to have to pay for an $8 coffee and accidentally reveal to, someone who, may have someone, you don't want to reveal that you're a millionaire or anything in all these small transactions because it kind of paints a big target on your back. So like the big gain here is that we can hide the amounts of transactions from the world. We don't have to broadcast it all the time the way Bitcoin does. Bitcoin, every transaction, it's the exact amount of the transaction you know, just by syncing a node and seeing the transaction show up. This hides amounts. That's the big gain. And then on top of that, it it makes attempts to obscure the transaction history. So which coins are being spent by who, sent to where. Right now, you can follow Bitcoin transactions, you can follow the inputs, and you see which outputs they go to. And then from there, you can follow those outputs to find new inputs, whatever. And like you can kind of follow the history. We have Chainalysis and all the other companies out there who do that. They learn a lot about accounts, it's especially bad when people reuse addresses. And that's another thing that MWEB fixes. When people reuse addresses, you see all the transactions linked to that address at once, like when you look at a block explorer. Um, so what MWEB gains is it hides the amounts, and addresses are actually stealth addresses. So you no longer have to worry about reusing an address and accidentally linking your identity to something. It's just like, to me, it's a very big, very important step towards more private, more fungible currency that Bitcoin is desperately missing. Now, like I said, it does not go full blown. It does not perfectly conceal the history. Depending on usage, you may leak a lot of information about where the transaction came from, where the coins came from, uh, and where they're going. But it's, to me, a very big and necessary step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big improvement in a lot of different areas. And do you believe that that should be the default level of privacy in Litecoin, or do you think it's something that people should have to utilize actively?
Um, I would love to see it as a default someday. Yep.
Is that
That someday could be a very long time in the future because it takes a lot to get the rest of the ecosystem on board. We don't even have many services. If a couple services that support MWEB, almost everything else does not. So we're a long way from it, but I think every cryptocurrency at minimum should have hidden amounts and preferably stealth addresses to some sort, um, to at least like kind of take the target off our backs.
Yeah, and do you mind kind of walking through what adoption? I know you said that you're not super concerned about the adoption. You're more about the tech, which is super valid. But what
Mhm.
does adoption look like? Is this something that wallets have to support? Is this something that exchanges need to support? Sorry, my dog just shook. But what does adoption look like, and what needs to happen to see that?
Yeah, the obvious start is to see wallets, third-party wallets adopting it. Most people do not run Litecoin Core. They run Cake Wallet. They run some their local, their Electrum, their some mobile wallet, whatever. Most people don't use Litecoin Core, so the first step is kind of just get adoption across wallets. And then once users have started to use MWEB more day-to-day transactions with other people and preferably businesses selling things, whatever, then hopefully they can start to pressure the bigger guys, the exchanges and the large corporations, the PayPals out there, to start supporting MWEB as well. So to me, it starts with wallets, like we're doing right now. Like we're starting to get into that stage with Cake Wallet and others, and then it's moving on to the BitPay, the exchanges, the big guys. Yep.
Nice. And do you think if Litecoin got that kind of adoption, do you think it would encourage other cryptocurrencies to consider adding it as well, like Bitcoin?
I I don't know. Say like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is kind of uh, it's hesitant to change for good reason, but also a bit extreme. Uh, I don't know. Originally I did this with the hope that Bitcoin would follow suit with something similar. MWeb turned out to be a little bit messy of a protocol, how we implemented it. I'm sure the smart people at Bitcoin could come up with something even better. But I was hoping by implementing it that it would kind of nudge them in that direction. But as we all know, the the like block size wars and all the factions that came from that, and we ended up with this toxic maximalism thing, and people have really dug their heels in on the no hard fork, no change, no nothing. It's perfect. Why would we ever change it kind of side? So um, there's a huge uphill battle to get anything, no matter how big or small, added to Bitcoin. And I think that's like the appetite to really take on that challenge from the dev side is kind of disappeared. Most of the guys pushing that stuff are like nowhere to be found these days. They're enjoying retirement or just quietly working in the background, just releasing papers, whatever. But they're not actively like pushing any privacy anywhere from I can tell. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I don't expect anything anytime soon from Bitcoin, but there are other coins that hopefully will see it. Um, hopefully, uh, learn from our examples, maybe build themselves something even better. But I think that um, seeing basic privacy being the default uh, on a major cryptocurrency would be helpful to the ecosystem. No, because everybody right now, like as soon as they touch privacy, you hear all these like big quote privacy coins who um, like the Dash. You remember how they were like this big privacy coin, whatever, and then exchanges started to drop them because they were too private. They whatever, because they got regulatory pressure. And like immediately they're like, well, we're not a privacy coin. We're actually just a coin that has this other stuff. Like right now, everybody's kind of afraid to say the word privacy because they're all afraid that exchanges are going to drop them and they're going to lose support, and regulatory pressure will ruin them. Whatever. I think Litecoin being as large as it is uh, like um, as liquid as it is, as prevalent as it is, pretty much everywhere. It's a harder thing to do. So seeing Litecoin get adoption while having privacy tech, hopefully will kind of reduce everyone's fears for other coins as well, so that they don't have to kind of shy away from even the thought of, like what I consider the most basic privacy you should have for any kind of digital currency.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good and it's really powerful, and setting the expectation for more privacy in more areas of people's lives, I think really it has an exponential impact and normalizing it. So super important stuff. Um, a little bit more on the technical side of the privacy. Are there different types of implementations? Can a wallet implement MWEB in a different way than a different wallet that has different privacy guarantees for people?
Um, yeah. So There's two areas. One is kind of the transaction building. Um, there's different decisions you can make when building your transactions, especially around coin selection, that will result in more or less usage of MWEB and more private usage of it. But I think ultimately there will be some objective best way or somewhat objective best way to do it for best privacy that won't have like downfalls that won't work on some wallets for some reason or anything like that. But then on the actual syncing side, there's one thing that will really affect it, which is like, for light clients, uh, in order to um, like even right now, there's already this big problem with light wallets where if you don't download the whole blockchain, then you can't know which coins belong to your wallet. You don't know, what coins have been sent there. You basically have to ask someone for it. Now, there's ways of doing it more privately. You used to use Bloom filters. Now there's some block filters or something like that. There's different ways of asking for that data that can hopefully restore some of the privacy so that we don't have to just explicitly say, hey, random node, here's all of my addresses. Can you give me all of my coins related to it? There's already varying ways of doing that right now, but with MWEB, you need even more data to determine which coins are yours. So we ended up developing a way to sync like a light. So there's a couple ways you can get your data basically for a light client. You can either give them a view key, which is similarly bad to the here's all of my addresses, can you give me all of my outputs? A view key similarly would just say, hey, you can find all my outputs with this public key here, and you can go unwind them, whatever, and then give me all the outputs. Or since the whole point of MWEB is to kind of give you better privacy, then there's ways that we've supported to download just like a limited version of the MWEB blockchain. It's still quite a bit of data for some light wallets, but they can go and sync like just the data needed from the MWEB and find their coins that way without having to ask some other server, some other node for all their outputs, without having to reveal their view key or anything like that. So depending on which approach is taken by third-party wallets and such, that can definitely have a huge impact on how much privacy you gain from it.
Got it. So the privacy guarantees are different from someone using a blockchain explorer versus actively running MWEB nodes.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Yep.
On this note of kind of the user experience and how wallets choose to implement it, what's your kind of ideal user experience when it comes to MWEB? And on this note, I guess something to clear up, a lot of these technologies require both people to have to use them. Is MWEB the same way?
Yeah, so you're saying like in order to use MWEB, you need the receiver to support MWEB. Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
And yeah,
Yeah,
and then what's
that is
that
definitely the
experience look
case.
like
Yeah.
in your ideal?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so right now, like, I mean, you basically, you can't send an MWEB, you can't send MWEB to a regular Litecoin address. Well, you can, but the coins then leave the MWEB. They then kind of peg out, go back to the main chain, and they're no longer sent via hidden amounts and everything else. It's now just basic transactions. So unless both sides are using MWEB, that's kind of most transactions are still going to take place on the main chain. Once we do have an ecosystem where most wallets can support MWEB, then it's as long as you're using an MWEB address, if the wallet is implemented the way Litecoin Core is anyways, as long as you're using an MWEB address, the bulk of the transaction is going to be on the MWEB side. And if you've already got enough coins over there, all of the transaction will be on the MWEB side. So yeah, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think
I tend
definitely
to
did.
ramble,
No,
so yeah.
it's okay. I think people want to hear it. They want to hear your thoughts, and I do too. So definitely feel free to go in as much detail as you want with these questions. Is there kind of something you don't want to see people doing with how they implement MWeb in their wallets?
Oh, well, um, uh, I, I mean, I'd prefer not to see view keys used at all for finding outputs. I want to see, even though it's a light client, I'd prefer them, you know, as long as it's technically feasible to just download the portion of uh, the, the portion of the MWeb blockchain that is necessary to find your outputs, and have it all done client side. But I expect there will be some that cop out and just go and ask for a view key and go do that for them, and uh, kind of discourages. It kind of ruins the privacy that we're gaining for those users. But I mean, one thing we've already seen, which I can't believe we've seen, but we have by big players, even Binance and others, is coins that are on the MWeb. If we send it to an address that's a regular Litecoin address, what happens is, um, at least for Litecoin Core, we peg out to that address. Basically, we create a transaction that moves coins out of the MWeb directly to that address. Well, Binance and others have decided they're not going to support those coins. They're not going to recognize those coins. So they effectively become lost at that point because they're trying to, I guess, they're combating privacy because they have regulatory pressure. So they think the right way to do that is just not accept coins coming from the MWeb. But the problem is they're coins now. They belong to Binance or the exchange in question. And so by not accepting them, by not crediting the users' accounts, they're effectively stealing those coins. So it's created kind of this weird situation where it's like you're afraid to transact with some players because if your wallet accidentally includes an MWeb coin, uh, then your output, the coins you send them might not be accepted. So that's kind of been like the weirdest and worst situation
You know, what,
involved there. And I'm hoping we can pressure them to come up with a cleaner solution. Um, Not that it needs a solution, like that we shouldn't have to be afraid to use the basic privacy tools that exist, um, but they do so because they're being pressured to, and that's the world we live in. But we're hoping they find a better you know choice. They make a better choice in the future.
I mean, privacy aside, I feel like it just sounds like robbery to me.
It is, and they may not go and spend those coins themselves, but it was, they were the user's coins sent to that address that accepts deposits for that user, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't like that transaction. It's not, you know, it's
Yeah.
not our coins. Which our whole hope with MWeb was to gain, basic privacy and fungibility. To have fungibility just means like every coin is accepted the same. You don't have tainted coins or anything like that. But then they've already gone and like tried to taint every coin that comes from MWeb. So one big hope with future adoption is that if we get enough people adopting MWeb, then they're not going to be able to just stop accepting coins coming from the MWeb.
hmm Um, I have a few more questions for you. Uh, First one is kind of a personal one here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if this is. I don't think it's a taboo topic. I'm not super versed with I guess the Twitter discussions, but I saw something about VPM.
Mm.
What's that about? My understanding is people wanted to rebrand it. Is that something that is legitimate?
As far as I know, that's my understanding. I haven't followed closely. I don't. I'm not a branding guy. Charlie came up with MWeb, which is something better than I would have come up with. I would have probably still been running around saying Mimblewimble extension blocks all the time, in the most annoying way possible. I don't do branding. I do tech alone. Shouldn't even be talking to people publicly like this. It's always a danger for, oddists like me. But no, I don't do marketing at all. So I don't know if it's a good idea, a bad idea. Personally, I like MWEB. It's simple. It's not easily confused with things like VPN.
Agreed.
But I'm not against Arabi and the others pushing it who are trying to, they know marketing more than I do. So they could do their thing. I'm not against it. I personally don't see the gain.
Got it. Okay, I was just curious there
That's
because
just
I've seen
Yep.
random suggested tweets my way or posts, whatever they're called now. And I was like, huh, that's interesting because I've been hearing a lot about MWeb and I haven't heard anything official about VPM. But my first thought was it sounds like a VPN. Um,
Yeah, that's usually what everyone, and I'm sure that's why it was called that. It was kind of like, oh, you need VPN for network and then VPM for money. I think is the idea. I didn't really follow, I didn't really dig too close into it. I just, I assume that was kind of what was the motivation behind it.
yeah. Um, are there any future changes or improvements to MWeb or
Uh,
Litecoin that you're really excited about?
yeah, so one thing is the um, coin swap protocol that's like Grin is already, they've already created a coin swap server. I don't know if they're running it yet or anything, but what coin swap is like you can have a number of nodes run by different people, preferably reputable people known by the community, uh, that you can submit. You kind of encrypt your coins and submit transactions to these coin swap servers, which can kind of combine them all into one gigantic transaction and kind of mix them or clean them and give you new coins of the same value, where even the servers themselves don't even know the link between the original coins and the new coins. Um, and so like what I would envision is like when you receive coins from someone, that you can like, your wallet can automatically submit that to these coin swap servers. And then over a period of, like the next 6 hours, 12 hours, whatever, uh, all of the coins sent there will all be swapped in one big transaction, forever obscuring the link between the original and the new coins. And it's a way to really give more Monero level privacy, Zcash level privacy, although they're a lot more clever. They mix every transaction basically. But it's a way of like solving that last bit that Mimblewimble's a little weak at, which is kind of obscuring the history of a coin. CoinSwap, if used the way I expect it will be, it'll give you, it'll basically give you a nice clean coin with no history to worry about. And so uh, we're looking to adopt that in Litecoin too. It's something that users or wallets would have to opt into. It's not something that would be part of the protocol, but it would be something really cool to see. It's something you can't do with regular Bitcoin or Litecoin. They have coin swap protocols. They're a little more complex though. But this results in some very good privacy in my opinion. So that's one thing I'm excited about. Another is, so V24 I've been working on for literally ever. And I know that it should have been launched a long time ago, but I did mention I'm very slow. And V24 has, of Litecoin Core, that is, has a lot of new features that takes full advantage of MWEB, which is like, the use of view keys and a bunch of other things that you can use for your own purposes for payment proofs. And we've changed how transacting is done, how transactions are created. There's all kinds of cool, like when we launched MWEB, the basics were there. The node was solid, which was the most important part. And the wallet was safe. That was about it. It was safe. It wasn't clean. It wasn't. Um, it was kind of like it was a first attempt at a wallet. It's very hard to include MWEB transactions into the wallet side in a clean way, and we didn't succeed the first time. But V24 goes and cleans up the wallet quite a bit to kind of give a better history in the transaction view. It just cleans up a bunch of tech debt we introduced with MWEB when we first launched out the door. So those are the two big things for me would be CoinSwap and the new V24.
Really exciting. And I don't know, at least for me, MWEB I feel like has it's just been a really cool new development for Litecoin that I think's brought a lot of fresh ideas and a lot of fresh I don't know, just a lot of good energy to the cryptocurrency, and it's been really cool to see privacy being taken seriously over there.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, like you said, it's not Zcash, it's not Monero, but I also don't think that's kind of the end goal of Litecoin. So the fact that we're able to provide privacy at a really scalable way that's still fast and still sticks to the Litecoin ideals is just really incredible. And yeah, is props to you. And I guess I should have asked this earlier. Who kind of was it? Just you who developed MWEB? Did you have people who worked with you? What did that look like?
So the original design was largely driven by me, but there was Charlie and Andrew Yang, currency holder. We kind of sat down together and came up with the actual design docs for it originally, and then from there the implementation was mostly me until midway through. Hector Chu jumped in some, and he did some a lot of cleanup of what I had and a lot of testing and stuff. But yeah, that was the bulk of it. Was us four then. But yeah, it's been since then we've had a few others who've kind of chimed in, given ideas. We did have some work with few in the academic community to kind of harden the security of it, because we were doing the new non-interactive transactions thing, which was a huge change, and it took a lot of iterations to get that right, to get that secure. And so we had a lot of input along the way from them on ways we can make it safer. I don't want to miss anyone, but it's been mostly me leading and then interacting with others as it was needed. There were a lot of people that contributed ideas along the way that were important and included in the end result.
Those are kind of the end of my questions, and then I'll open it up to the space for questions from the community. But just wanted to say that we're working really hard over here at Cake Wallet. I know it's been a long time coming. People have been wanting it for a while, but MWEB should be live. We're hoping today, depending on App Store approvals. So if anyone wants to try it out,
cool.
Feel free to try it out on Cake Wallet. And David, I don't know if you've been testing the betas at all, but if you haven't, it'd be awesome to kind of get your feedback to see what you think and any improvements we can make.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't, but I will. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback. You can't get better feedback than from the person who made it, so that'd be really awesome. That's all I have for me. I'm gonna stop talking now. So if anyone wants to raise their hand or just request to speak would be better. I'll go ahead and invite you, and you can ask David some questions.